Hi, I'm at home tonight because I didn't record my video at school today. So I'm catching up tonight at home, showing you the next steps of your coiled vessel project. So, as you remember, we've talked about convex and concave planes. So you're designing and coiling an object that is going to become maybe a mug, maybe a pitcher, maybe a vase, and you're using convex and concave planes, and it's the form. So the form does need to curve either out and in some combination. It doesn't have to be a dramatic out and in. It can just be a little out and in. So as long as you can show me that you can control where the coils go and where they take the walls, that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I'm going to get into that today in our demo, how to control that in and out. Another requirement is this needs to be at least 6 inches tall. So I don't have a ruler with me, unfortunately, but you do because you had one in your swag bag. So make sure you're continuing to check and make sure that your form, by the time you're done building it, is at least 6 inches tall. It needs to be at least 4 inches wide. And that doesn't mean the bottom has to be 4 inches wide. That just means at its widest point, it needs to be at least 4 inches wide. So that might be in the belly. It might grow out to be about 4 inches wide. It's going to need handles, and I'll talk about handles tomorrow. Today is all about finishing your build and trying to get it to the height that you want it to go based on your template that you made. And so this is the template I'm basing my form on, and I've been working on it. I worked on it for a lot of today. I kind of made it curve in a little bit more than it should, so I'm going to have to bring these walls back out. But it's close. It's kind of hugging the curves of my template. So I'm going to start by bringing my walls out a little bit. I'm going to put this on a lid so that it pivots a little bit better. So I'm just pinching these walls out a little bit. You can really treat this coil pot. Oh yeah, that's better. You can treat this coil pot a little bit like a pinch pot, to be honest. Like you're coiling for sure. That's your main building technique. But you can also pinch and move these walls around. And if it needs to come in more, if your walls come out too far, you can just squeeze, 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 and that will make your walls come in more dramatically. See right here? And maybe you can't see. It's coming in a little bit more dramatically there, but I need to bring it back out again. So I am ready to continue my coiling. This is coiled up about, from what I remember, this is about 3.5 inches tall. So I have about half my coiling left to do to reach the height of my mug. The good news is because my form is getting more and more narrow, so it's starting to become concave and sloping inward, it means I have less square footage to cover. So I have less coils to make. They're going to be less long. And so this half of my coiling, the top half, should actually be a lot quicker. So just to make my life a little easier, I am going to roll a bunch of coils and then just kind of set them aside so that I just have a stockpile of coils to use. And this is a good trick for you to use too. So you can kind of just get in the zone and roll a bunch of your coils, and then you just have this nice stockpile to use. So it's definitely turning into an oval right away. So I'm just going to press that ovalness out of it, and then I'm going to keep rolling. I do love my mom, Paul, not the way that I do love you. So now I'm going to use these coils to begin to build up higher on my form. Grab my slip. And my fork. My slipping fork, my scoring fork. Here we go. Scoring and slipping. This slip is so much better than the slip I have at school. Wow. Life is good when you've got good slip. Okay, so my form needs to slowly come in now and become concave. So I am going to very purposely place and lean my coil to the inside of my previous layer. Can you kind of see how this leans and curves inward? It's not going to be dramatic, like a dramatic curve inward, but it is going to be noticeable. Like you'll be able to tell, or you should be able to tell. And I didn't cut a bevel here because actually my coils meet end to end. like that coil was actually rolled to be the perfect length. It's almost as though I was a professional. That was a joke. All right, so now I'm going to do some melding here. And as this form gets narrower, just double checking. Ooh, that needs to come out a little bit. As this form gets narrower, it's going to become harder and harder for me to meld the inside. And so there's going to come a point where maybe you can't meld the inside, or you're just going to meld by feel, and you're not going to be melding with a tool or anything like that, or melding to make it look pretty. So I forgot my popsicle stick at school, so I'm just using my thumbs and my fingers to do the melding. So I'm melding the inside first, and I'm making sure that I'm providing a little wall with my hands on the outside. So when I'm doing the melding on the inside, I'm not accidentally pushing my walls out more than I want. Okay, then I'm going to meld the outside. Okay, the downside of really good slip is it gushes out the sides and it makes the clay too slippery. What is that sound? Huh, weird. And so I'm having a hard time getting kind of hooking into that clay and melding it. Oh, the struggle is real. Okay, so that's my next layer. Let me hold my template up to it. Okay, so the template, by the way, I guess maybe I should mention this. It should match all the sides of your pot. It shouldn't just match up to one side of your pot. So you need to test your template on multiple sides. I'm going to have my plastic card handy, because my plastic card is actually going to help me do a better job integrating my coils into my previous layer. I just have to, again, remember to provide that pushback from the opposite side that I'm melding. Okay, and I'm not going to worry so much about the inside melding. I'm mainly focusing on the outside melding, because that's really what we're going to see. I melded the inside as best I could just by, blending it with my fingers. But if the inside isn't 100% beautiful, it's really probably going to be okay. This layer also is going to lean inward. And this layer is going to need a bevel. So I'm just going to use my card here to cut that 45-degree angle, cut on one side of my coil, matching 45-degree cut on the other side of my coil, score and slip where they connect, seamless connection. Okay, double check that. Yep, that's sloping in the way that I want. Double check it on the other sides too. Looking good. All right. So I'm going to meld the inside first. Now it's really getting to be challenging. So I'm just going to use my thumbs to meld as best I can on the inside. Take the time to do this. Please do your melding on the inside as best you can. You don't have to spend as much time on it. I should point out while I'm doing this, the bottom half of my pot, my ginormous mug that I'm making, is leather hard. And that's how I'm able to build these upper layers on top without these bottom layers sagging. So keep that in mind. It's possible to build on a base that's still plastic, but it's a lot less safe, because as you're adding more weight up here, if this doesn't have the structural integrity, guess what? Your project is going to go and it's going to make that sound, and you're going to be like, what? Why did I do that? So that's why I'm having you do this in steps. You do the bottom half one day, then you do the top half the next day. So the bottom half has time to firm up and get leather hard. Okay. So there's that layer. I'm going to take my card. Wow, it really helps for me to stand up. This might be something you want to try, especially if you're doing this scraping step. you just get a lot better leverage and better view, really, too. So I'm scraping vertically. I can scrape horizontally. And this helps level those lumps and bumps that are in the clay. I'm just thinking about what a totally appropriate sized mug this is. It'll shrink, don't worry. Okay. All right. Ooh, looking good. I would guess I have 1, maybe 2, 3 more coils left to go. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to speed this up again. Because I think you're kind of getting the gist of what I'm doing, hopefully. I'm just leaning each remaining coil that I have inward so that it continues to bring the form slowly inward. Okay, here we go.
Girl, I never loved one like you.
Man, oh man, you're my best friend. I scream it too. There's nothing that, there ain't nothing that I need.
Well, hot and heavy pumpkin pie, chocolate candy, Jesus Christ, ain't nothing please me more than you.
Oh, let me go home. Home is wherever I'm with you. Oh, let me go home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
So today was the day, to you it's going to be yesterday when you're watching this, but today was the day I asked you the question for your attendance question, just to ask me any questions that you want for, that you might want to ask about ceramics. And so that was actually kind of awesome. You guys asked really good questions. Not everybody asked a question, and that was okay. But one of the questions, nobody asked this today because you're all way too polite. But one of the questions that I know sometimes kids have is, why is this important for me to learn? Why should I learn how to make a coil pot? Why should I learn how to use a mold and make a bowl? Why a clay bowl? Why should I learn how to make pinch pots and put an animal together? And the answer to that is not because I think you're going to have a career in pinch pot animals, although you might, you never know. But the point of doing all this is teaching you some new skills, teaching you to be creative, teaching you to utilize the tools that you have at hand, teaching you to be resourceful, teaching you to take a task that maybe wouldn't have been a task you chose willingly, and to put a good spin on it, and to put your full effort into it, to keep to a schedule and a routine, and to be self-motivated, and to have an appreciation for all the hard work that goes into making a piece of pottery. So next time you're at a shop, or even next time you open up your cupboard and you see in your cupboard that there's a clay plate, a ceramic plate in there, or a ceramic mug in there, or a ceramic bowl that you eat your cereal out of. Because I'm guessing most of you have ceramic plates and bowls and things in your house. It's incredibly common. So the next time you see those things, I want you to look at the shape of that bowl. Look at the gentle arc of the edge of that plate. Look at that handle on that mug. I want you to be appreciators of ceramic arts, even if you don't touch clay again for the rest of your life. If you can gain an appreciation of a lovely form, a functional handle, and a balanced design, when you see those things throughout the rest of your life, you're going to think about ceramics class. You're going to think about the weird junk your teacher made you do to help you appreciate ceramic art. And maybe, just maybe, you've enjoyed yourself enough to maybe take the second level of ceramics, ceramics B. If you're not a senior, you can be in my classroom, maybe actually in my classroom again in the future. And, again, maybe this isn't going to be your career, but I'll tell you what, I've had students who came into my class not really knowing what to expect, and they have enjoyed themselves so much that they did decide to go on to college and major in ceramics. Um, Another option, if you're a kid that's maybe interested in engineering or some other kind of spatially relational career, ceramics, if you've enjoyed it, could be a good minor in college. Or if you decide that college is not for you, which is totally, totally fine, there are a number of places around the Twin Cities where you can simply take ceramic classes and have it be a hobby. It can be a lovely hobby that can cause you to get out your stresses that you're encountering in life, where you just get to turn your brain off and just create and make awesome stuff that you can give to people as gifts or that you can eat out of or drink out of. I've had a lot of students that have enjoyed their ceramic classes and haven't gone on to make a career out of it or major it in college, but it's a lifelong love and a hobby and something they come back to whenever they're stressed out. They take a class and reconnect with clay as almost as a form of therapy, like mental health, preserving and restoring your mental health. It's a great tool for that. I know that when I'm stressed out, all I need to do is come down to my studio and play around with some clay, and my mind is taken off of whatever it is that's troubling me. Um, I'm going to let you into a little bit of a story, like into my life a little bit here. 3 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with leukemia. Um, uh, I forget what type of leukemia, ALS, I think. The most severe form, the kind that you can't really recover from. There's no cure for it. So when we found out her diagnosis, I didn't really know how to deal with that. I'd never, I hadn't lost a parent yet. I'd lost my grandparents, but the idea of losing my mom was pretty traumatic for me. And so the way that I chose to deal with it, because my mom doesn't live by us, so I couldn't go over and see her really super easily. So the way I chose to deal with it is I made a bunch of sculptures of her at different phases of her life. And they were kind of cartoony. They weren't super good or realistic. But these sculptures helped me come to terms with who my mom was as a human, the things she had been through as a little girl, as a teenager, as a young adult, and then as a grandmother, and then as a cancer patient. So I made these sculptures of her, and as I sat there for those hours and hours and hours and hours making these sculptures of her, I was just thinking about her and all the memories that I had when I was a child with my mom, or the memories I had when of looking through picture books of my mom as a teenager and thinking about like when my mom was my age, what that couldn't have ever been. So anyway, it allowed me a lot of quiet processing time to help deal with what I was going through with my mom. And I'm sad to say my mom passed away just this last January. So actually just before I had you guys as my students. And it was hard. It was definitely very hard. But one of the things that I know helped me get through that grieving process was knowing how much time I had spent thinking about her in the last 3 years and how much time I'd really spent while I was making these clay pieces. It really helped me know how important she was to me, and the art and the making of the clay pieces was part of how I was able to cope with her passing in a really healthy way. So that's my story about how clay saved my life. Now, how clay just really helped me in a really tough time. So La-di-da, that's my story. Okay, so I think I have one more coil to do, right? One more coil to build up the lip of my mug. So I'm going to do one more coil. I guess the whole reason I told you that is you might never touch clay or make anything with clay the rest of your life, or you might. You might not touch clay for 20 years. And then you might remember, oh yeah, clay. I kind of liked poking that clay and messing around with it and making stuff. So later in life, maybe you'll come back to working with clay and you'll seek it out as a way to deal with whatever adulty things you're dealing with in your life. You never know. Clay will wait for you. Okay. Oh my goodness, not long enough. Come on. Come on. All right, I'm totally just patching it in now. Boy, that looks good. Right, last coil, here we go. Actually, I'm probably gonna add one more coil because your last coil should actually be your best coil because that's gonna be the lip of your pot. And this coil that I put up there is not my best coil. So I'm probably gonna do one more little one and really focus on that little one looking as good as I can possibly get it. Okay, so it's definitely leaning this way a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can't fix that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so I know I've been time-lapsing a lot of this, so it seems like this might not be taking me that long to build, but I mean, this takes a little while. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that this is gonna go by in the blink of an eye. It takes a little bit of time, especially to make it look good. So just be aware that you know, you're probably going to be working, doing your coiling for at least about a half an hour today. So, you know, just kind of embrace that. Embrace the fact that you're going to set aside 30 minutes to listen to some good music, to put a good TV show on in the background, and just make your coils. Okay, how's this looking? All right, not at all how it's supposed to look down here. And then up here at the top, I'm actually going to use my template to kind of scrape this top part. My template's made of cardboard, so I kind of have that ability to scrape the clay. I do like what that's doing. It's really defining what is the shoulder and what is the lip. It's kind of nice. Okay, so that needs some cleanup, obviously. My lip also needs cleanup because it's definitely higher on one side than the other. You know what I might do? Instead of adding another coil, I'm going to take my plastic card here, or also your toothpick could probably work for this too, but I'm just going to do a little bit of shaving with my plastic card all the way around. Really important that I try and keep it level though as I'm doing my carving. So there's still some thickness issues, like it's thicker on one side than the other. I'll show you in a moment. So I'm going to have to do, see that? Thicker on one side than the other. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of pinching, right? Pinching is your friend if you're trying to thin something out, because that by pinching it, you're redistributing that clay. And so now that I've pinched it, it's higher again here and here because there was just more clay to raise right there. So I'm going to have to kind of spend a little bit of time shaving and really refining this lip. I'm also going to take this around and scrape this again. It's a process. There. Okay. So I'm going to still spend some time with this, but um, this is the kind of the finale of the coiling. There's a lot of refining. We have to add handles yet. There's a thing called an undercut I'm going to have you do. We're going to smooth this with the sponge. I just don't want to smooth it today because I don't want to introduce too much water into the clay, which will weaken it. So my final step for today, once I've coiled up as high as I plan to go, as far as my template says I need to go, take a photo of what you coiled, and I would like for you to hold your template or just kind of stick your template into the clay before you snap your photo so that I can see how you were able to make the form fit your template. Or honestly, if you totally off-roaded it and went rogue and did your own form that doesn't follow the template, still hold your template next to your pot. But if it is something totally different that isn't following that shape, it's okay. I just want to see that your template was there and maybe that you attempted to follow the template, but then you changed direction. That's okay to change direction. Okay, so snap your picture with your template, and then when you bag this up, when you bag it up, I want you to bag this up loosely, okay? So we don't want this to stay 100% hydrated for tomorrow. And we also don't want it to get totally bone dry for tomorrow because both of those scenarios are going to limit what we can do. So I'm going to take my bag and I'm going to lay it over the top of my pot. And my bag actually has a little hole in it. And I'm going to leave it kind of puffed open at the bottom. So a little bit of air can trickle in there, firm it up, get it leather hard for tomorrow. And then tomorrow is when we'll talk about refining that form and adding handles and moving towards finishing the form. This is going to be due by the end of the week. And so you got to stay on pace to be able to accomplish your little tasks each day so the clay is in the right stage for the next task the next day. In theory, you could coil this whole thing in one day, but it would probably sink under its own weight because it would be too plastic to build the whole thing in one day. So that's why I have you breaking it down into little steps. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, good luck with your coiling. Message me if you have any questions. Don't forget to take the attendance question for today, please. And that's it. Have fun. Happy coiling.